Our goal is simple: to help you achieve the dream and vision you first had when you thought about starting a business. We're here to make growing your business less complicated. There are building blocks to build a sustainable business. We promise to seek them out and address them all. The Better Your Business Show starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the Better Your Business Show. On each show, we bring you a panel of industry experts to teach you how to better your business. I am actually your host of the day, Shanna Mavis. I'm a business coach and executive consultant. And I have with me the lovely Natalie Essman. She's going to be our special guest today. But before we bring her on officially, we want to introduce our co-host, Todd Social. He is just a guru of everything social and all things marketing. So, Todd, good morning. Welcome to you.
Good morning. Good morning. We all know that building a business doesn't come with an instruction manual, and our goal is to turn your business into bite-sized pieces to better your business. And today's person or person of finance, I think, is going to be helpful for people bettering their business.
Absolutely. So, whether you're joining us live or watching the replay, make sure to take your free business assessment at pillar5.com and join us live in our virtual studio where we can address your comments and concerns throughout the show. And as everyone can see, she's been very quiet and very patient, but you're all well familiar with her. We've got with us our special guest, Miss Natalie Essman. She's the founder and CVO of Your Money Expert, and she's the executive producer of the Better Your Business Show. So, you guys, she's the reason that we're all able to be here and put on this content that's so important for business owners. Having these types of conversations has been amazing. So, welcome, Natalie. We're so thankful to have you on here and get to hear from you today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here with you guys. As you know, I love spending my Monday mornings with you. So it's obviously different being in this hot seat, but I do love my Monday mornings with you. And Todd, you're looking especially handsome today. I just keep thinking that with the little salt and pepper. I like that.
I'm just getting old. That's it.
So, Natalie, you are in the hot seat today, and a lot of it is because of your background in finance. And so, I'd love for everyone who doesn't know you at this point, anyone joining us, let's talk about who you are. Give us a little bit on your background, how you got started, all of those things. It's an interesting story, so I'm excited for people to hear it.
So, I got into the financial services industry in 2004. I was a single parent at the time and had reached my cap of income that I could make. And reality was, as I was stressed out, I was working 7 days a week. I was grinding all day, going to school, doing internships. And reality was, even when I graduated from school, I was still going to be in the same position. And so I really had to stop and ask myself, is this what I want really the rest of my life to be like, where I feel like I'm just, struggling to make it through each day, and I didn't want that. So for me, I felt that the only way that I could do that was through having a business. That way I could be in charge of my time as a single mom and money. So that's kind of where it started. So I actually started by becoming a loan processor. And when I was doing the loan processing, what I learned from that is it really didn't matter how much money people were making. Whether it's $500,000 a year or $30,000 a year, most people were in the same situation when it came to their finances. They didn't have enough money saved. They had debt, didn't have the right amount of insurance protection. And so it really reiterated to me the lack of financial education that we have, because it wasn't about the money. Prior to that, I thought if you lived in the big fancy house, had the big fancy car, you had it all together. And I saw the exact opposite of that. Sometimes the person making $30,000 a year was actually doing better financially, had better savings, had better credit, had all that in place. So it really put a different perspective on things for me.
Why do you think that is? I mean, because a lot of us, and I will say this, a lot of us really do think, okay, if I have all of this, I have, all of the things, I make $500,000 a year. Why do you think it is that the person making less, is doing better financially?
Because doing better financially was more important to them than the other person. That's the only difference. They took the time to learn, to prioritize that in their life, to learn the things that they needed to learn, and just made it more of a priority than the other people did. And again, it's just something because we're not taught. We're trying to figure it out, right? So it's just habits and behaviors. The other person wanted financial peace of mind. The other family just wasn't there yet or whatever, right? So
Yeah. So one of the things that you always talk about, or I've heard you talk about, is the relationship with money. And that's something, I know that we had a conversation, and it wasn't even, I tell people, I was actually supposed to be interviewing Natalie about her experience with Pillar 5, and we do want to talk about that. But, the conversation got shifted. It was like your brain automatically goes to, hey, Shanna, tell me about your problems with money, how, or anything like that. So it's just natural for you, but there's something, you focus on the relationship with money. Can you talk about that a little bit?
yes. So part of the reason I was doing some research on you, that's part of it, right? Because we all have different belief systems, relationship, different, blocks, patterns when it comes to money. So that's the first thing that has to be addressed, because if we have negative beliefs around money, then putting strategy in place isn't going to fix that, right? If you have negative beliefs around money and it keeps putting you into debt, and I keep putting a plan together for you to get out of debt, but you still have that negative beliefs, it's just this cycle of, I'm going to get you out of debt, you're going to get back into debt, right? We have to get to the root of the problem first and then build upon that. So there is some psychology involved in it, definitely.
Yeah, I wasn't super happy when you were putting me in that spot, but no, it was good. It was a great conversation because it helped me to think about some of the things that I hadn't really addressed, whether it was conscious or not. And a lot of the times it's unconscious things that we don't even realize we're carrying that with us. We don't know what's going on. We just know we're in this situation now. So how do I get out of it? Give me that quick fix. But until we fix our mindset, and we've talked about this a lot with business, but it goes beyond that, mindset for business and personal. It's just looking at it different ways. So
definitely. And even just what we've learned from our parents along the way, what we've learned subconsciously along the way when we're sitting at Christmas, right? What was your Christmases like? Was Dad there ticked off because we're wasting all this money as we're throwing all the wrapping paper around, or was it a glorious experience, right? There's so many different things that come up in those areas. So it's important that we get to the root so we can stop the pattern and then expand.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about your Pillar 5 experience. So you actually, we always ask our guests to come on to take it, because we want to understand from their perspective, whether it's a business owner, whether it's a, whatever industry expert we have, we want them to take that. So walk us through your Pillar 5 experience.
So when I went through the Pillar 5 experience, I actually did it. Tehran was on the phone with me. He was kind of walking me through going through the software. And so this was, I guess, almost 2 years ago now, about that I went through the process. And I remember telling him, I must have put something in wrong. Can we go back? Because of my results. Like, I know I pushed the wrong button. And it was a very profound conversation that I had with him, because he challenged me. He said, no, that's feedback based on the information that you put in. That's real feedback based on you, right? So either you just maybe don't like the feedback, but that's the right answer, Natalie. And the reality is it was spot on. And what I loved about it is you can't hide from truth, right? When the truth is in your face, it's like, and you need to shift. And so honestly, I'm grateful that it happened at that stage, because I had at that time started another business. And I knew after that I was not going to have a sustainable business, and I didn't want to waste more time. So it allowed me to shift as opposed to wasting more time. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. I've been an entrepreneur for too long. I was really, really ready for that next level. And that's what Pillar 5's allowed. And that's one of the reasons why I just became so passionate about being able to share that with people. Because after 18 years, you would think, hey, right, I got the game figured out, and I'm talking about money, I'm talking about sustainability. This is a normal conversation in my world, and I wasn't there. And I know that that's most businesses and most people, because I'm seeing it just in their personal relationship with finances. So if I can't help you exit your job, you're definitely not going to exit your business rich.
Wow. Wow. That's something to think about.
Well, it is, because I don't think most people think about exiting their business rich. They don't think about their end game. So it's interesting how you talk about your relationship with money, because I think people don't even recognize that. And we were talking before the show came on, and I brought up a term, and we all had a different perspective on it. And I said, people don't understand that there's a difference between, say, bootstrapping and undercapitalizing. Now, in terms of the relationship of money, what you were saying about the cycle makes sense. If somebody's undercapitalizing, or maybe, underfunding their business, they're going to have the same negative cycle as far as the output is concerned. So I know you kind of said you don't necessarily have had experiences with businesses like that, but what's your understanding or perception of what you think undercapitalizing is? Like, have you had any clients that maybe have not given you the full scope of their finances when you're trying to figure out their relationship with money?
Almost every time. Almost every time. People carry a lot of guilt and shame around their finances, unfortunately. Sure. So a lot of times they're not divulging all the information at once. So part of it is I need to make people feel comfortable enough to have that conversation. And the reality is if we really want help and want things to get better, it's just like going to the doctors and giving them my symptoms, right? If I'm not giving him all the information, he can only give me so much feedback to make things better. So if we're going to be going through the pain of it, I would say just, put it all out there. Let's just get it all out there. So that way things can be strategic for you. But the other thing too, Todd, what I loved about us having that conversation in the beginning, because it reminded me of one of the reasons why I love the show so much and how it's helped me over the last 2 years too, is because it's almost like we're not aware of the possibilities, right? We're not aware that we have those options to be able to do that. And so I think the more that we're talking about that, and again, why I love the show is the more that we're talking about all the different opportunities that are available to us, just the more opportunity there is for us to grow. My beliefs about money have changed so much, even just in the last 3 or 4 years of what I think the possibilities are. I mean, a couple of years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine. I was like, I don't even think we need money anymore. Like I think there's just so much opportunity out there. And again, that's just a lack of awareness up to all of us of what the possibilities are. So just us talking about money. That's why I love this platform. Let's just normalize talking about money.
So in the process of a business or an individual, you have to probably, I guess you do like a financial review or analysis, right? So what is that kind of process like when you're working with someone, and what can you offer is good tips or best practices for people that may be interested in understanding what a financial review will actually tell them?
So the first thing that I'm going to do is obviously do a little bit of education components. We always have to stick to the fundamentals and basics, I think, in anything. Mm-hmm. So really getting back to the basics and the fundamentals. So what do most people want? We want peace of mind when it comes to our finances, right? We don't want to have to be stressing about money. So most people, we're going to look at, do they get out of debt, emergency fund, retirement planning, right? What do they have in place? What is the goal? It's just a navigation. This is where you're at right now. Here's what we need to do to get to where you want to go. There's going to be a process to that. It's not, for most people, it's not going to be the full body makeover the first time, right? We're going to start by, changing the oil. Maybe that's helping them get out of debt, putting that plan together, freeing up discretionary income for them. Now they have freed up discretionary income. What are we going to do with that money? Do we need to put more money in their emergency fund? Do we need to put more money towards the retirement account? What do we do from that? And then we're able to build on there. But the reality is that you have to have a solid foundation built in your finances before we can expand. It's just like building a house. You put the structure together, the foundation together, and we can build on that. If the foundation isn't there first, it will never work. The other thing too, that I think is crucial, is that you have a team of people that are working with your finances with you. there should be more than just one person in that conversation. So example, I was sitting with a client of mine that's been dealing with a lot of challenges with COVID. He was in the hospital for a long time. Wasn't able to finish up his taxes because of all that stuff, right? So as soon as he's better and able to do that, he wants to start having the conversation. And as far as the first thing I say is, okay, well, we need your bookkeeper there. I need to be there. CPA needs to be there. It's not just, hey, I need to schedule time with my CPA. It's like, hey, no, we need to all be on the same page, right? So the conversation we're all having together if we're going to do this right for you. And most people aren't looking at it that way. It's like, hey, I have my plan through my job. Hey, I have my insurance person over here, blah, 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 whatever. All these things can go hand in hand. And so they all need to be communicating. If I was Oprah, it doesn't matter if it's 2 or 3 in the morning. If I want to talk about my finances, all those people are going to fly to where I'm at, show up and have that conversation. And that should be all of us, frankly, my belief.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that was another thing that we talked about right before the show was how big finance really is, and that there are experts for different things in that area, that a lot of people just bring it down to, okay, well, what's in my bank account, or am I making money? That's finance. And there's so much more to it. You're focusing on one area. You've got the CPA that's focusing on the accounting and bookkeeping and taxes, all of that. You've got other people that are doing so many different things in this one area, and sales impacts, finance, marketing, finance, there's so many different things. And so I love that you bring up the fact that you need a team around you. You need experts in their various fields for these large, like pillars.
Yeah.
Finance is one of the 5 pillars of a sustainable business, just like marketing. That's the reason you need experts like Todd Social. And he has a team of people around him. He has other people that weigh in, that help him execute the strategy that he comes up with. Their input makes a big difference. So I love that you brought that up. Todd, you're back.
Yes, I'm back. Sorry about that. So in terms of how do you help someone exit their business rich, or actually just grow financially wealthy, how long of a cycle is that in your estimation? Could it be years, months, days, depending on their situation? How much money they have in the bank? What do you think?
So for the demographic that I've been in, for most people, they're not.
Okay.
It is just the truth. And I would even say to you, probably even most big businesses has been my experience. I've only been dealing with businesses for the last 2 years, but I found even with businesses that maybe have the capital to do that, their businesses are growing so fast too. They're not slowing down to do things right in the beginning. And I'll go back to that. It's how we start something that makes all the difference, right? So a lot of these businesses that are looking at exiting rich, right? Let's just say they're thinking, oh, I'm going to retire next year. For most of them, they're really not planning on retiring. Most of them love their job, love what they're doing. There's usually something that's forcing them to sell their business, exit their business, whether it's, my health isn't working, whatever, I have to retire, we need money, blah, 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 for something. That's usually why people are doing it. So they haven't put things in place in the beginning to be able to do that, to be able to sell their business for what it's worth. That's been a big thing. So then you have to go back and do all this reverse engineering and do things right now so that you can sell your business for enough money. But now you're giving yourself more time. So example, let's just say I just start talking about how to exit my business. I really want to have it sold in the next year, but I didn't do things right from the beginning. It's probably going to take me 5 years, because now I have to put things in place. Now my books have to match. Now I need to show I made money. And if you look, and I'm guilty, if you look at most business owners, when I walk into my CPA, I got I'm like, take me to the red line, baby. Woo! Like my CPA already knows that's how I walk in. Let's do this, right? Now I'm not having that same conversation. I'm like, maybe we're not redlining me. I need to show different things because my goal is to sell my business now, where at that time it wasn't. My goal was to pay the least amount in taxes, right? So it changes your conversation. Did I answer the question?
No, it's a good answer to the question, because I think a lot of people don't understand that there is a roadmap. I mean, this is why we talk so much about, Pillar 5 and being a GPS, because you have to have a roadmap, and a lot of people don't have the roadmap, or they kind of cut corners. And going back to my phrase, under capitalizing could be a lot of categories. Could
Yes.
be underfunding yourself, could be not doing the basic things that you should do to actually raise your valuation. Like that, like the valuation to me is a deep conversation, because most businesses, I think if you ask them what their valuation is, they have no clue.
No idea. Yeah.
They have zero clue. So you kind of come in, it seems to me like you kind of come in and give them the extra set of eyes that they don't have on their business right now, and help them to understand that their business can mature, but they have to do certain things. They have to follow a certain process. And I don't think most people think about that. I don't think they even consider, where they want to mature to, because I think most people are in such a hurry to get into business that they don't even think about exiting rich. I've never, until you said the term, I haven't even thought about that. What is exiting rich? And is rich actual wealth, or is it just a combination of things? Is it, okay, I can retire, I can invest, I can, do things that I want to do with my life?
So I want to get into that. Before you answer that, Natalie, we're going to go to a quick break, and then we're going to come back, because I think everyone needs to hear this, and we do need to talk about these things. What does exiting rich really mean? We'll talk about that after this break.
Okay.
One of the problems that I've had thus far is that I'm going on my experience. I'm building a business on my heartache. And one of the things that I've had to take out of that is you can't build a business entirely on emotion. And so this allows me to take the emotion out of it. This is what you need to do, whether you like it or not.
And we're back. All right. So we're back with Natalie Essman, your financial or your money expert, and Todd Social. He's just everything marketing. He's just the master marketer. So anyone that needs marketing, we all go to him. But right before the break, Todd brought up an excellent question. And a lot of us hadn't heard that. We get into business because we're going to make a whole bunch of money. We've got this thing and it's amazing. Or we've got this product and it's amazing. Whatever it is, we just feel like, hey, we're going to blow up. But we never think about the end of that. To what end? How are you getting out of this? Are you leaving a legacy? Are you trying to sell? Are you, but what does it mean to exit your business rich?
So I think there's a couple things that you can consider on that. The first one is I think that changes over time, because when we put ourselves in a better financial situation and create that awareness, we can actually visualize ourselves expanding at that point. If we don't have the foundation, all that stuff in place, it's virtually impossible to be able to do that. So I think that our definition of exiting rich, of being rich, expands over time, right? So that would be the first thing. And then I still think definition is going to be different. So what is that for you, right? If I'm bringing home $50,000 a year in retirement and I have no financial stress, is that rich to somebody? Sure, I think so, right? But if I'm bringing $250,000 in retirement and I'm still financially stressed out, then do I feel rich? No, I feel like I still need to work. So I think it's just all perspective on what the goal is. And that's why it really starts with now. Starting to put those foundations in place now so that we can expand on what that looks like.
I love that. But as you were talking, one of the things that stood out is you still have to have a goal, because if you don't even think about exiting your business, you're not going to have the things in place, until it's too late potentially. Like you said, if your goal, you've worked 30 years, if you haven't thought about how you're getting out of that or when you're going to exit, you're going to be so far behind. You're not going to be able to achieve the same goals that you would have had you gone into it that way. So is that one of the things that, as you're talking to people, you talked about how you help them deal with the psychology. There's more to the psychology of money, how they relate to it, how they think about it, how they were raised with it. So that's the area that you focus on with your clients, the people that you work with?
It just depends. It really just depends. Some people, when I think about legacy, a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but there are some individuals who are going to have healthier relationships with money than others, right? So maybe they already have foundations in place, and then I'm just helping them with strategy, helping them grow their empire, helping them, protect their assets or whatever. But then there are people who haven't even started that. And that's usually where I need to start with the psychology of it. Usually there's a reason why they're not maybe feeling worthy of that. Bad beliefs around money, right? If I say money is the root of, we all know what the rest of that phrase is going to be, because subconsciously that's in all of our heads, right? So if they have some subconscious belief around money that's not serving them, I'm going to see it the second I look at their finances. One of the things I pay attention to, I had my friend's, her boyfriend would always take his dollar bills and just shove them in his pockets. Like, it didn't even matter. Like, he wouldn't even know how many different wads of cash he has in his pockets. To me, that's a big red flag on how he feels about money, right? So I'm like, hey, let's have a conversation around that, right? And so there's little just habits, things that we do, how we treat money, the importance of it. Are we, it's not a big deal. Casual about money? Is that our mindset with money? Or, there's just all different things you have to look at when it comes to that.
I feel like we may be casual about it until such time as we're not, and I think that's the way it was for me, because as you were describing your friend's boyfriend, it's like, I would do that. I would just throw it in the, it's in the car, or it's in my purse, or it's, it didn't really matter until it did. And then I was like, how am I going, what am I going to do? How do I get out of this mess? I went to, people that I trusted and, just laid it all out. Like you said, there's so much shame. There was so much, I didn't know how I got into that situation, because the way that, I grew up differently, I grew up not having a lot. And then when I had it, it was just like, it's always going to be there until it wasn't. And then it was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I think a lot of us are casual about it until such time as we're hit with life. Yeah. And the reality hits us that it's not guaranteed, and that we need to look at this differently, that it's not, the be all end all, but that it is important that you understand, the impact that this has and what it can do.
Yeah. And money is a tool that we use every single day of our life, but we're never taught how it works. We're never taught how to use it. We're never taught how to leverage it. Even thinking about the rule of 72. If you don't know what it is, go Google it. What is it? It's Albert Einstein calls it the eighth wonder of the world. It's leveraging our time. If time's our greatest asset, then we should start saving money now, learning these principles now, so that we can leverage that. I mean, you just think about if I'm doing, when I started my son's plan, I think he was 7 years old at the time. For me, saving $50 a month for him, when he hit 60 years old to retirement, he was going to be worth multi-millions just at $50 a month, because his money was having that time to compound because I started early.
Wow.
I mean, shouldn't we be taught this stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've never used the theory of Pythagoreanism or whatever that thing's called ever in my life. I can't even pronounce the word. But you know what? I use money every day. Every single day of my life, I use money. We know as soon as we're 18, we're hopefully going to move out of our parents' house, buy our own house, right? We have to start having kids, college, all that stuff's going to happen. We know we're going to use those things. So why aren't we talking about that more? Why aren't we, preparing for those things more?
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that. Yeah, and I don't use it either. I do know what it is, and I feel like maybe I spent more time learning about the Pythagorean theorem than I did money. But it's you're right. And my kids and I were talking about this. They're early 20s now, but we were talking about this, and they were like, they weren't taught any of these things in class, and unfortunately, because of the way that I handled money, we had money at the time. And so it was just like there was no worries. So for them, it's just like now they're learning through the experience that I've gone through. And thankfully they're seeing it, so that there's more to it. But we do need to be taught that. There needs to be more education. And I think, like you said, there needs to be some normalization around the topic of money. It is not, it shouldn't be the source of shame or guilt or condemnation or anything like that. It is a tool. So how do we use this tool responsibly?
And what value do we place on it even too? This morning I had gone into my son's store to steal a comb from him. And he had it's probably like $1.50 and change and I had found it in there probably 6 months prior. It was just sitting in there getting crusty. So you know what I did? I took that change out and I stuck it in my piggy bank. And I was like, if you're not going to value it, I will. So I stuck it in my piggy bank, right? Because again, that's part of his relationship with money. He's not valuing how much time it took him to earn that money, how much time it took from his life, from spending time with other people, for doing other things, right? It's time of your life, and so we have to value that.
Isn't it really a lot in the mindset though? Can we talk about that in terms of the mindset of where does that come from? Because I think that our minds, obviously in school I wasn't taught anything because I don't know about well, I know about this stuff.
Yes.
Just probably didn't pay attention as much as I should have. But isn't it really in the mindset? Because if in reality, if you really actually think about it, anyone that has like an average job nowadays, they go to college, do the average job thing, right? They're technically a millionaire on paper if they stay at their job for 20 years. So how does the mindset of the relationship with money really make a difference? I know you talked about, the negative mindset, but what if a person has a neutral mindset, like they want to learn but they don't understand? How can they turn a neutral mindset into a positive mindset?
Well, again, I think that comes down to desire. Do they want to have a healthy relationship with money? I have Reverend Ike Turner. He's one of he wrote Fried Chicken Soup for the Soul, I think is the name of the book. It's one of just my favorite books ever. And he actually talks about how being indifferent towards money is one of the most dangerous positions that we can be in. And I find that interesting because when we're casual with it, it's just going to be casual back with us either, right? It's just going to be like, I don't care, whatever, not a big deal. So I really take that to heart because, again, if it's going down to mindset, we just have to have that desire to want to have a healthier relationship with money. And it just comes down to awareness, I think, too. Some people don't even know that they can have a healthy relationship with money. When we talk about that person who's retiring, technically they're a millionaire on paper, let's say, Todd, right? But do they even know that? Are they aware of that? Have they looked at it from that perspective? Most people haven't. Most people are thinking about retirement at 50. That's the truth. We're trying to, get out of debt, get our kids out of the house, pay off their college loans, right? All these different things. Because it used to be we worked hard, we had a job, we had a pension, we bought our house, we lived there, retired there forever. We paid off our house, and because we were never planning on moving, but that doesn't exist anymore. People move and change jobs every 6 to 7 years. It's a very different time that we're living in, so we have to do things differently.
All right. Well, I would love to switch topics real quickly because just working with different businesses, I want to talk about budgets. Because I feel like that's something that a lot of companies, especially startups or those that are in, startup mindset, they don't have budgets in place. And I feel like, both business and personal, these are things that are budgets are tremendously important. But I
Budget
want to hear
is
from,
permission to spend freely.
explain how that, and I agree with you. Explain that so that I would love to dive deeper into that. How does it limit, because it looks limiting. I'm putting all of these numbers in here and I'm saying I can only spend this much. So how is that freedom?
Well, I know how much I can spend on what I want to spend on. So to me, that's freedom, right? If I'm going to go to the mall today and my mall budget was $500, then I know I can spend that. I know I can still pay my bills. I know I still can run my business. I know I can have all those other things in place. So to me, that's freedom. That's peace of mind. And that's why I love the budget. Somebody was talking about stress regards to finances. I'm not going to say that I'm always playing the perfect game, but I very rarely now at this point have any stress in regards to finances because I budget and save money. I have those things in place. So if emergency comes up, they always do, they always will. And emergencies are more than likely going to cost us money, right? You have those things in place, then you don't have to deal with the stress of it because that's what it's there for.
So if you're saying that it's and again, I want to be clear. I agree with everything that you're saying because I know that that line item that says, okay, if I'm looking at my personal finances and I say shopping and I've got a $500 budget, that'll be the day. Then I know I can go out and I can buy whatever I want up to that limit. Anything that I want or need, I've got that much money set aside for. But it's that mindset, recognizing it as freedom instead of the mindset. And really, I've battled this with people because I'm like, what's your budget for that? And they're like, well, I just need to get it's whatever I need. How much do I need to spend on that? And it's just like, you're going to be in so much. I see Todd, he's like cringing because I'm certain he's heard some of the same things. So how do you combat that when you work with clients, and either of you can answer this? When you're working with clients or when you're talking to people and they're just like, but I need to do this, or how it's stopping me from getting what I need, or I don't want to create a budget. I just want to get what I want, and it'll all work out.
Why am I sitting here with you? That would be my question. Then why am I here? If you have it all figured out, then there's no reason for us to be having the conversation. Or if you're not willing to implement the things, then...
I mean, that's tough. It's a tough thing, but yeah,
that's a non-starter. I mean, it's just they really have to overcome their inability to identify what money is to them, especially when we're talking about budgets. Because the thing about it is, it goes back to what Natalie was saying earlier about having a relationship. Well, honestly, if you don't have a relationship with money from a personal perspective, there's no way you're going to have it from a professional perspective. You're just carrying it over as an excuse, and that's what a lot of people do is like, and this is the whole, what I said earlier about undercapitalizing and bootstrapping. It's like bootstrapping is okay. You might want to move lean. You might want to, start a business. And this is what I usually tell people, or what I try to uncover. Is your business your hobby, your investment, or your retirement plan? Because if it's your hobby, then you'll tell yourself you'll bootstrap it. You're just undercapitalizing it because you're waiting for it to explode. If it's your investment, you will invest correctly, but that investment habit comes from someone that, like Natalie first. She's already gotten to you and got you like a roadmap, but many people don't get that. If it's your retirement plan, I know that you've worked with Natalie for a couple of years and she's given you all the tools and the resources, and you've actually taken time to pay attention so you can actually exit rich. But how many people actually take the time to get there? Because money is the worst thing to deal with when it comes to their budgets. And it's not, and that goes back to a relationship. Natalie's right. If they have a negative mindset, I can't get them there. That's just, it's too hard to overcome. So I think they do have to spend more time. It's like someone once told me, and it was like someone, a financial advisor, a long time ago, told me, if you really want to have some type of relationship with money, you have to make appointments with yourself to actually pay attention to what you're spending. And I used to have a really bad habit because, I'm a digital nomad. So I'm here, there, everywhere, roundabout. I'm just spending money, don't even think about it, just receipt here, receipt there. But one day I actually sat down and stopped myself. And because I was finally listening to what he was saying to me for a while, and it was just like, I really started paying attention. So then I start making appointments with myself, usually on a weekend. And a lot of entrepreneurs, because we're so busy, we don't make those valuable appointments. And this is why Natalie is so important, because, if Natalie can get to you at a right standpoint, yes, you can exit rich, because now you're going to create good habits for yourself, which means you'll take away your negativity and turn it into positivity. But budgets, man, if you can't even have a budget, if you can't even look in your wallet and be like,
yeah, well, I look at it, Todd, when I think about what you were just talking about, it's almost like dating. If we're having a relationship with money, if we looked at like our spouse, but I only spend an hour a month with my spouse, am I going to have a great, healthy, thriving relationship with them?
Wow.
Probably not very good. If you know anybody that's been married for a long period of time, do they go on a weekly date night? More than likely. Life happens, but they're probably going at least 3 a month. They're spending a lot of time tending to that, right? Watering that plant. It's the same thing with our money. I personally have a weekly date and that's me on Sundays as I'm going through and reviewing my week. I still touch base with all those things. I do. It's important to. It's been very intriguing to me too, is during COVID, I've had more fraud on my accounts than I ever had my entire life, put together during COVID. And the thing I just kept thinking to myself was, how many people have even noticed that they've had fraud on their accounts? Because how many people are really taking the time to look? That's why people do it. If I slip an extra $300-$400 on your credit card, are you going to notice? On your ATM account, if I take 100, are you going to notice? Most people aren't looking that closely at their finances.
Yeah. I was actually hoping that that would happen so that I would have a reason to dispute transactions. And on that note, we're going to take another quick break. We'll be right back with Natalie Essman and Todd Social.
A wise man once asked, what if starting a business was like jumping out of a plane? And like 76% of businesses, what if 76% of parachutes failed before you reached the destination? What about those of you who have already jumped? Well, you may still have time to check your business. Pillar5.com, where businesses get it right.
Chris's business was growing and quickly adding employees. The company was taking off. When the company grew to more than 25 people, Chris hardly had time to do anything but deal with annoying employee problems. Fortunately, Chris found the abundant tools to keep the team organized and motivated. Now, delegating is easy and the company can keep growing. If you manage or advise a company like this one, visit abundant.com to learn more.
All right, and we're back. Welcome back with Natalie Essman, your money expert, and Todd Social, the professor of social media. He is just everything marketing and social media. But we are having a great discussion about money. And I think, Natalie was all geeked out. She's super excited about it because that's where she lives. I love that you share the story about you as a kid starting to make money. That was so cute to me when you talked about that. But I think you've always had, a relationship. You've always had this desire and a relationship with it. And you talked about you've seen both sides of it, right? You grew up differently than most people, not really ever stressed or worried about it until you had to.
Right. And it's not that we were a wealthy family or anything. It's just that my grandfather was a good steward of his money. He had taught my mom to be a good steward of her money. And so there wasn't a lot of talk or stress in our house about that type of stuff. My mom always said, don't get into debt, pay your bills, save your, money, all that types of stuff. And so that's kind of how we grew up. And so it wasn't until I became an entrepreneur that I really started understanding how stressful our finances can be. And so I was really grateful for that, because the other thing I think too is if you look back to the trajectory of our lives, you can always see, I think, where we're supposed to go, right? What we're supposed to be talking about. And so if you look back over my life, it's always been centered around money. Always. My first business was the Pink and Purple Panthers. We sold candy on the corner. We would go to Gemmel Pharmacy, sell candy on the corner after school, and all sorts of things. So that's always kind of been my thing. And also, the other thing that I think is a huge deal is that we're understanding higher laws associated with money. If we want to be, I don't know if I want to use the word successful, but I think that that's a huge component. Is we really need to understand the higher laws that go with money as well. It's a crucial component. Currency, like I'm big into words. So currency, anybody know what currency is? Or anybody in the studio audience? So currency means to flow, right? That's what currency, money's not meant to be stagnant. Money's meant to flow. It's meant to exchange. It needs to have movement, rhythm, where it's a value exchange, of value, an exchange of energy, right?
Okay.
So it's
that's interesting. I never looked at it from that perspective.
Yeah, that's why generous people, boom, you tend to have a really fluid relationship with money, where the misers not so much.
All right. So I've heard this term before, and I've always wondered how to respond to it, or how to make sense of it. The term or the phrase, how to make money work for you. How does one make money work for them? I mean, I know you've talked about exiting rich and how you work with people. So if I was to come to you and say, hey, I have a little bit of money, a little bit of money, and I want to make it work for me, how would you go about that? Is that in your financial review? Is that your process? Is that kind of your secret sauce? Am I asking too much?
I think it goes back to starting at the fundamentals. The first thing I'm going to look at is, do you have the fundamentals in place? And if you do, then we can expand from that. If you and look at, what does that expansion look like for you? What is taught into? What is, are we going to throw it at something and hope it sticks? No. What do you have in place? What are you into? What can we look at from there? So just an example, for me personally, I wouldn't just go and throw my money into cryptocurrency. Do I invest in cryptocurrency? I do invest in cryptocurrency. I wouldn't just go all in on it. Maybe that's not the right mindset, right? Some people are going all in and making a lot of money. But for myself, I invest in cryptocurrency because I have other things in place that has allowed me to feel like, hey, if I go to Vegas, because that's what it is, if I go to Vegas and lose all this money, I have to be okay with that, right? Yep. And I am okay with that because I have other things in place. And now that's just the next level. So when I'm talking to that person, Todd, it's, okay, what's that next level? What does that look like for you? Maybe you hate cryptocurrency. Maybe it's not something you want to do, but you want to do something in real estate. The other question I would look at too is, can we get an asset is it an asset or is it an investment, right? Are we buying, a business, a vending machine business that costs 10 grand that's making you money, or are we, right? So those are just different things that you need to look at based on foundation you have in place and where do you want to go.
Oh, okay. That's totally interesting. And it makes me wonder, like, if money is really an exchange and it's different energies, well, there's different types of monies that are appearing. You brought up crypto, but there's different ways of looking at it. So in reality, is it safe to say that you'd be helping someone build their portfolio or, review their portfolio to kind of upgrade it to be something of value?
Definitely. Definitely. And hopefully we're all doing that. But we can expand if we don't have the fundamentals in place first. And that's the thing. We get those fundamentals in place and then we can expand. And when we're able to expand, again, it's just creating more expansion in our life as a whole. It's not just about the money. It's all the other things that come from that expansion, all the opportunity that comes from that expansion, how much we're growing because of that expansion. Like if I was having this conversation 2 years ago before we started the show, my definition of what expansion looks like would be very different than it is right now.
Okay.
Being on the show has definitely helped me to expand, right? All the people that we've met, all the different businesses, all the things that I've learned have helped me to expand, putting the basics into place and expanding on that.
I think that's why it's especially important to have a team of experts. I'm listening to you say 2 years ago now, you've been in business 18 years now.
Yeah.
2 years ago, your definition would have been different, but it's that education, that exposure to experts that has allowed you to understand even your industry better, even your understanding. It helps you help others in a way that you didn't understand before. And you're like one of the smartest people I know with my, just listening to you, I've heard the conversations that you've been a part of. So I think it's important to know that you've got, to have experts around you.
Can we teach someone how to do something we haven't done?
Well, no. Well,
maybe small instances, maybe, but not really.
Yeah, I don't know that I could. I think I would have to do it in order to know, to be most comfortable teach. Yeah, I don't think you should. I guess I feel that way for sure.
Right. So all that's happening is as I'm learning how to implement these things in my own life, is I'm just sharing what I'm learning along the way. I'm just sharing my expansion.
So I'm seeing Carlton is saying, yes, you can teach someone.
It depends on the teacher.
And I agree with that. I feel like there's something to that experiential knowledge that makes a huge difference, because not having done it means that you might not have run into some of the pitfalls that other people who have. You're going, I don't know what you're basing your teaching on then, if it's not that experience. So
are people teachable though? That's what I would like to say, is like, is that person actually teachable? Because it may not depend on the teacher. It may actually depend if the person's teachable to begin with, which goes back to what Natalie said earlier about a negative mindset. If you're not teachable, you're convinced that you know more about money than the person who actually knows about money.
Right.
I love that so much. So I had a mentor one time who had thrown this challenge out, and he and I had worked together for a long time. We were really close. I mean, I could speak for him. That's how good we knew each other. And so he did this challenge on how teachable we were being. And I thought for sure, I was like, I am the most teachable person here. So I challenged it because I wanted him to tell me how awesome I was. This is the truth. I'm like, give it to me. I'm teachable. He gave me like a 3 out of 10. And I was like, what? I thought I was so teachable. And so he starts asking me these questions. Did you this? And I'm like, no. Did you this? No. Did you this? No. Probably a 3 out of 10. And again, that's an awareness thing, because we don't know what we don't know. I thought I was on the mark, baby. And then I asked the question and my feedback was like, you're not even close. So that was a big one. Yeah, we have to ask the question and maybe not even like the response.
When it's money, most people don't like the response. And that's the sad reality, but that's part of what I feel like you and others like you. I just saw that beautiful comment, you're learning from the best if you're working with, Natalie, because of your passion. But it's people like you who are passionate about it, who are not afraid to have these conversations and want to impart that wisdom on others that's making the difference. We have to have these conversations in order for us to change the trajectory of so many people's lives. And
of our own life too.
Yeah.
That's really the only difference that we make. That's how we make the difference in other people's lives, I believe, is starting with our own life first. right? Mother Teresa says, if you want to make a difference in the world, go home and love your children. It's the same thing. You want to teach people how to have a better relationship with money, how to have a better business, how to have a better whatever. It starts with us first.
All right. Well, Natalie, we're getting close to time. I know that you're well familiar with this routine, but is there anything that you want to leave the audience with? You know, any message, any, you know, starting point, any tips, tricks?
I would say just start normalizing the conversation around money, start talking about it more, start seeking it out more. And I think the biggest thing is really putting yourself in a group of associations where you can learn things from different perspectives as well. Having the right experts around you where you're getting feedback on different perspectives to find what's the right solution for you. Because even though you can have all these different, right, they're just opinions in different areas. At the end of the day, know enough to be able to trust yourself, your judgment, and your discernment. So that way, if you screw up, there's no one to blame but yourself anyway. That would be the biggest thing. But just get out there and start learning.
All right. And so as we are huge proponents of finding experts, Natalie, you are your money expert for so many people. How do people reach you?
I'm on all social media platforms. So you can find me on any social media platform. Just send me a DM, or Natalie@yourmoneyexpert.com is my email. .net. Sorry, I don't even know my own thing. .net.
We'll find you. Thank you so much for spending the time with us, talking to us, helping us normalize money. I think what stood out to me most is the fact that when you called out the fact that so many people are ashamed and guilty, you know, around money. And I remember that space. I remember looking at, you know, my, you know, a spreadsheet, and I was like, I don't even know how it got to this. And I had to go to someone, and it was just like, it was one of the most horrific experiences, you know, putting that out there and just saying, I don't know, you know, I feel like I'm super smart. But you know, and I do people's taxes. I do, you know, I understood, you know, money in, money out, but how did I get to this situation? And it was because of the relationship that I had with money. And still, you know, I'm working through that now, but that's as a result of having conversations with people like you. That one conversation that we had, you asked me so many questions where I was just like, yeah, I don't know. You know, it gave me something to think about that I hadn't really even considered. So I am thankful for you and others like you. Todd, what was it for you today?
I think it's very clear that you have to have that fundamental in place. I think, you know, what the last 2 years have especially shown, if you don't have that fundamental in place, then your relationship with money will be exposed. I think you can see that from any vantage point. I mean, think about the multitude of businesses that are currently not open right now. You know, that to me, their relationship with money was the problem. It wasn't, you know, did they have enough staff or, you know, customers, their relationship with money, because that gives you a clarity about the other aspects of business, you know. And I think what's important to know is that once you get that fundamental in place, whether it's a business or your personal life, you know, you can get to your goals, but you have to be realistic about them. And I think, you know, being honest with yourself, where you're at, is a whole lot better than being dishonest with your destination, because people will decide, oh, I claim to be a millionaire. I claim I'm going to do that. Okay, that's good. But your fundamentals are important. And I think Natalie strikes home how important that is. And a lot of people, they start negative before they do anything else, because it's a lot easier to go low than it is to go high. And so that's a barrier to break for a lot of people, and even people who are successful. I mean, like, let's just look at people who are maybe millionaires or multimillionaires. If they could actually take 10% of their negative mindset and turn into positive, would they be multimillionaires, or would they be, growing better than that? And that's a top-down thing, because that person could be a CEO in a business, and if he has a negative mindset, guess what? The company has a negative mindset.
So true.
So I learned a lot today from understanding how mindset matters, how fundamentals matter. And it feels like I'm talking to my old school accountant from like 20 years ago that I didn't want to listen to, when I was super young. I just wanted to spend money. Feels like I got to go back to the basics, but it was very helpful to really understand that.
Awesome.
Agreed. All right, Natalie, you want to close us out since you're still here with us?
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us this Monday. Do something today that your business will thank you for. Thank you to I Do Systems. Thank you to the LA Tribune. Thank you all, everybody, for joining us this Monday. And we'll see you next week. Have a great week, everybody.
Our goal is simple: to help you achieve the dream and vision you first had when you thought about starting a business. We're here to make growing your business less complicated. There are building blocks to build a sustainable business. We promise to seek them out and address them all. The Better Your Business Show starts now.